Did you know that 90% of what we learn is forgotten within a week if we don't actively try to retain it? That's right, most of what you study is slipping away. But here's the shocker. There's a way to learn up to 4 times faster by simply changing how you approach information. It's called the Feynman Technique, and it could completely change how you learn. Developed by Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman, this method is simple but powerful. It's not just about memorizing facts, it's about truly understanding them. In this video, you're going to learn exactly how to use this technique, step by step, to speed up your learning, improve retention, and identify gaps in your knowledge. Stick around because we're also including a real-world example that will show you how to apply it today. If you've ever felt like your brain is holding you back, this could be the solution. Let's dive in and see how you can unlock your brain's potential. Chapter 1. Mind Hacking 101. The Feynman Power Move. The Feynman Technique is a brilliant strategy for anyone who wants to learn faster. It was named after Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist known for his genius-level understanding of complex subjects. But here's the catch, he didn't just understand them, he could explain them simply to anyone. And that's the trick. This method is like a mind hack. Why? Because it forces you to simplify the complex and grasp the real core of what you're trying to learn. It's a way to avoid fooling yourself into thinking you know more than you do. The Feynman technique is proven to be effective, but it's also incredibly simple. Step 1 is to pick a topic you want to learn. This can be anything, from biology to coding, or even a personal development skill like mindfulness. Next, write down everything you know about the topic. The key here is to use simple language. Imagine you're explaining it to a child or someone with zero knowledge. This simplicity is where the magic happens. Did you know that our brain tends to retain more information when it's in an active learning state? A study from the Learning Agency shows that teaching others improves retention by as much as 90%. This is why the Feynman technique is so powerful, it engages your brain fully. The act of simplifying also uncovers your knowledge gaps. These are the parts where you struggle to explain clearly. And here's where the real learning starts. If you find something difficult to explain, you don't know it well enough yet. This method gives you immediate feedback on where you need to dive deeper. This technique is often called the quickest way to mastery because of this instant correction loop. Feynman once said, "The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool." This quote sums up the core of his technique perfectly. If you can't explain it simply, then you're not truly understanding it. Now, let's dig deeper into how you can leverage this power move. Chapter 2. The Knowledge Funnel. Turning complex ideas into simple wins. Think of your brain as a funnel, where complex ideas come in from the top, and clear, simple understanding comes out the bottom. The Feynman technique works like a knowledge funnel. You take complex information and squeeze it into a form that's so simple, it feels like a win. Start with the write it down step. Use a notebook, a whiteboard, or even your computer to start listing what you think you know. Avoid jargon or complicated terms. Pretend you're explaining it to a friend who has no background in the subject. This process forces your brain to strip away the unnecessary and focus on the core ideas. Here's an interesting fact. Research shows that when you simplify complex information, it helps your brain form stronger neural connections. According to Stanford's Learning Lab, simplifying content reduces cognitive load by up to 50%, which allows your brain to retain more information. It's the difference between cramming for a test and actually remembering what you learned weeks later. Once you've written down your explanation, read it out loud. The act of vocalizing helps cement the information in your mind. If something doesn't sound right, it probably isn't. Keep refining until it clicks. This step not only makes learning easier, but it can also make you feel more confident. The simpler you can explain something, the more you actually know. This process doesn't just apply to academic subjects, it works for learning life skills, too. Whether it's learning how to manage your time better or mastering a new hobby, the knowledge funnel will help you turn the complex into simple wins. Chapter 3. Talk like a genius. The power of explaining to learn. The Feynman technique has a secret weapon: explaining to others. There's a reason why some of the world's most successful people are also great teachers. Teaching forces you to understand a subject deeply, and it's one of the fastest ways to master new skills. When you explain something, your brain switches into a more active learning mode. You're no longer passively absorbing information, you're processing and reorganizing it in real time. A study from Harvard's Graduate School of Education found that people who actively explain concepts retain more than 75% of what they learn, compared to only 5% when just reading or listening. Here's how it works. After you've simplified your notes, find someone to explain it to. This could be a friend, family member, or even an imaginary audience. The act of talking through the concept out loud challenges your brain to form clearer, stronger connections. If you stumble or get stuck, that's a sign you need to go back and refine your understanding. Feynman believed that if you can't explain something in a way that even a 12-year-old could understand, you don't really know it. This is your aha moment, when you truly get it. Teaching others is like holding up a mirror to your own knowledge. The clearer your explanation, the clearer your understanding becomes. Even if you don't have someone to explain it to, try self-explaining. Talk through the subject to yourself, out loud. This forces your brain to actively organize and simplify the information. You'll be surprised at how much faster you can master a topic when you put it into your own words. If you're finding this helpful, make sure to subscribe for more tips on mastering learning techniques like this one. Chapter 4. The Curiosity Loop. How asking better questions fuels faster learning. Curiosity is a powerful driver of learning, and it plays a big role in the Feynman technique. When you're curious, you naturally dig deeper and ask questions. The more questions you ask, the better your understanding becomes. This is what I call the curiosity loop. It's a cycle. Curiosity leads to questions, questions lead to learning, and learning sparks even more curiosity. Let's say you're learning about the solar system. Don't just stop at, what are the planets? Go deeper. Ask, why do planets orbit the sun? Or, how does gravity affect each planet differently? Every question you ask pulls you further into the subject and helps you build a stronger knowledge base. Studies from Harvard University show that students who ask questions retain 2 times more information than those who don't. The simple act of questioning engages your brain in a more active, critical way. This is why the Feynman technique is so effective. It forces you to identify the gaps in your knowledge through questions. Another key part of the curiosity loop is that it makes learning fun. When you're genuinely curious, learning feels less like a chore and more like a challenge. Feynman himself was famously curious about everything. He said, "I don't know anything, but I do know that everything is interesting if you go into it deeply enough." This mindset fuels faster learning because it turns learning into a quest for discovery. The more you use the Feynman technique, the more you'll find yourself asking better questions. Over time, you'll develop a habit of digging deeper, not just skimming the surface. This will help you understand topics more thoroughly, leading to faster mastery. Chapter 5. Brain Error Proofing. Identify your knowledge gaps like a pro. One of the most valuable aspects of the Feynman technique is that it forces you to identify your knowledge gaps. These are the blind spots, the areas where you think you know something but don't fully understand it. And here's the trick. By identifying and fixing these gaps, you error-proof your brain. Most people gloss over the things they don't understand, but that's a mistake. The Feynman technique turns this weakness into a strength by shining a spotlight on the parts you struggle to explain. Once you find these gaps, you know exactly what to work on. This process isn't just helpful, it's essential. Studies show that learners who focus on their weaknesses improve 50% faster than those who only focus on what they already know. Think of it like working out. You don't get stronger by only lifting weights that are easy. You build strength by challenging yourself with the hard stuff. When you're going through the Feynman technique and you hit a snag, when you can't explain something clearly, don't panic. This is a good sign. It means you've just found a gap. Now you can go back to your source material, reread, and figure out what you missed. This is what makes the Feynman technique a feedback loop for faster learning. Richard Feynman himself said, "You have no responsibility to live up to what other people think you ought to accomplish. You have no responsibility to be like they expect you to be. It's their mistake, not your failing." This speaks to the importance of learning at your own pace and focusing on where you need improvement. If you found these insights helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more tips on mastering your learning journey. Let's keep growing together.